Welcome to Behind the Business, the podcast where we cut through the noise and get real about running a profitable business. I'm Pamela Hilton, CPA, with over 30 years in accounting, tax, payroll, and business advisory services. Each week, I will share stories from the field, answering real questions from business owners, and give you the straight talk you need to grow and protect your business. No fluff, no hype, just practical advice that works in the real world. So, let's get to it. Hey there, and welcome to Behind the Business, the first pilot episode of the podcast. I'm so excited to be bringing this to you. This has been a long time in the making. I'm Pamela Hilton. I have over 35 years experience. I'm a certified public accountant, CPA, and I've been in this industry for a really long time. I've seen it all. I've seen all kinds of success stories, not so success stories, funny stories, horror stories, and I'm really excited to be bringing all of those to you. Pitfalls and tips and tricks. And along the way, I'm hoping to bring to light all of those things that go on behind the business, because I think that it's kind of a scary thing to be running your own business. And there's not a lot of information out there for business owners, and there's a lot of misinformation. I think that it's hard to figure out what's good information and what's bad information, especially when we're bombarded with so much of it from just in-person, family and friends, social media. There's just so much of it out there. And especially if you're new in business, it's hard to figure out what's good and what's bad. And there's conflicting information. Right? When I sit down with a prospect, with somebody who's coming to me for the first time, I hear this a lot, that they get conflicting information. They hear one thing from one person, and then they hear something completely opposite from another person. Sometimes these can be professionals, sometimes it can be from other business owners, and they're hearing complete opposite things. And that's really confusing. And when you're trying to operate a business, get things off the ground, especially when it comes to critical things, you're at a standstill and you don't want to make the wrong move, especially when you think it might get you in trouble. It's overwhelming. It's hard to move forward. You don't want to make a mistake, right? Especially you don't want to get in trouble with the IRS, or you don't want to get penalized. So that's where we're at. This is what this first episode is going to be all about. Where to find solid information for your business, where to look and where not to look, how to kind of weed out the noise when it comes to getting solid business advice, because it's hard to get away from all that noise that's out there when you're a business owner, because it's hard to figure out who's a reputable person, who's a reputable professional, and who's not. So let's dive in. Let's start out with, if you're a new business owner. So for instance, I'm a third generation business owner. I come from a family of people who have always been in business for themselves. If you're lucky enough to be from a line of people who have always been self-employed, then you've got a kind of a head start, because you have all of that kind of knowledge behind you. So you've got a running start. But if you're not lucky enough to have had that history of people in your family who have run businesses, then you've got a cold start. You don't know even where to begin. So you're not going to have these family members who are going to have any great advice. And you may even have family members who are going to give you not so great advice. And that's another whole story. You may have family members who are giving you really bad advice. And I do have had clients who are in that situation where they're getting really bad advice from clients. I've had some clients who, and I see this a lot, where everybody thinks they're a bookkeeper. They have these people who think they have all these bookkeepers in their family when they start a business. And bookkeeping, I know that everybody thinks that bookkeeping is really easy, and there's all this software out there that makes it look easy, but If you get somebody in your family who thinks they can do the bookkeeping for you, and they don't have any background in it, it's really hard to politely say no thank you. But if you have somebody in your family who thinks they can do the bookkeeping for you and they have no talent in that, they have no experience in that, then you have to try and politely tell them that you already have somebody. You try to find somebody who can do that for you. And if you do have family members who are trying to give you advice, I would suggest that you try to find advice elsewhere, because you don't want to get yourself in trouble. This is your what you hope is going to be your livelihood, right? This is what you're trying to build this business. And if you start off your business with bad advice, this is the foothold, this is the foundation of what you're trying to do. And if you started off with bad bookkeeping, the wrong structure, you've created, the wrong LLC, or if you created the wrong entity, or you've got the wrong whatever, EIN or whatever it is, if you started it out wrong, then you've got the right professional later on down the road. They have to kind of undo that mess afterwards. Try not to listen to the family members who are giving you, who don't have the experience. Try to kind of navigate that as delicately as possible. And it is a little bit of a balancing act. Try to navigate that as delicately as possible, to not take advice from family members who are well-intentioned but don't have the experience. And try to work your way to more professionals seek out professionals who can help you start your business on the right foot. The next thing I want to talk about is social media. And this is kind of a big one. We'll spend a little bit more time on this, because all of these platforms, I know a lot of the Gen Z and millennials are on TikTok. I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok. I spend more time on Instagram. There's so much information, and I know there are professionals, myself included. I just told you I'm on Instagram. There are a lot of professionals who give out great advice on these platforms, and I would encourage you to find professionals, CPAs, lawyers, people who give advice, solid advice on those platforms. But there are others who give advice that is not so great. So if you are going to, like I said, sift through and try to find the balance between good advice and bad advice, try and stick to the professionals, people who have designations like CPAs or enrolled agents, who have the background and the training, and who are keeping up with the education on things, to follow their advice and their pages, and subscribe to their channels, other than these other people who are just business owners and those being in those networking in those business groups. Because I do see a lot of people who are just in these regular old business groups, networking groups, asking questions about general business advice. Who do you get to form your LLC? Asking tax questions in these business groups. And then everybody kind of chimes in. They all pile on those business questions, right? And everybody who are just, regular business owners answering these questions. And it makes me really nervous when I see these in these business groups, all these people chiming in, and you'll see people, all these comments, there's 30 or 40 comments on these questions. And I always get very nervous that these people are going to take this advice. And I try to delicately, when I can, try to, respond to some of these comments. But if you're going to seek out advice and ask a question on social media, I would try to stick to asking a question in a group that is specifically a group run by a professional, a group that's run by a CPA, a group that's run by like an enrolled agent, or, run by somebody who has specific designation or knowledge about that topic. The other thing is, if you are seeking knowledge, about taxes, about creating a business, or, whatever it is, legal advice, So for instance, I am a certified public accountant. All CPAs are licensed within their state. Every state has different licensing requirements. So if you're looking for a certified public accountant, a CPA, you would go to your state licensing board. They have a website. You can go on that state's licensing website and you can look up every state, everybody who's licensed in that state. So you can go on Massachusetts Division of licensure, and you can look up me. You can see who is currently licensed in that state. The same thing for enrolled agents. You can look up the enrolled agents. You have to have a certification. The same thing with lawyers. You can look up who's got a current lawyers. Anybody who has a designation. Same thing with board certified physicians. So do your due diligence with people who are professionals, who you want to, work with. As a business owner, you're going to be building your team as you grow your business. And you're going to be working with certain professionals. As you build your team and as you're getting advice and seeking out advice from certain professionals. So do your due diligence. You're going to be having discovery calls with these advisors. And you're going to be interviewing them and, look up their licenses, do your due diligence, do a little sleuthing online. And you can look up all of these people and look up their websites, obviously, and look them up on social media. So you are, your, what we call due diligence, look them up and see what their reputation is. So that's a great way to see, how reputable they are. If their advice is solid, you can kind of see, what kind of presence they have online and what kind of testimonials they have online, that sort of thing. So that kind of lends itself towards what kind of advice they're giving, what kind of reputation they have. So that's what I have to say about social media. Don't just blindly ask a question online or Google it. Try to be a little more intentional about finding the answers to your questions. Instead of I know it's quick and easy to Google your question, but when you're talking about your business and something that's really, obviously quick, and if you have a quick question that's not super, super critical, that's one thing. But if you have something that's really important, that's important to your business, then be intentional about finding the answers to that question. Everyday questions, maybe not so much. You can super simple Google. But if it's a real critical question to your business, then that might be something that you want to be a little more intentional about than just running through TikTok or running through a Google search. Let's see. The other thing I find really, really helpful when trying to find solid business advice for business owners is belonging to groups, peer groups, business groups, networking groups. That's always really helpful on multiple levels. I belong to a few networking groups here locally in my community. The Chamber of Commerce is always a great one. In your area, research if there's a great Chamber of Commerce. Some are better than others. Some are bigger than others, have more members. But it's always a great idea to be involved in your community, because you're going to be working with members. If you're working one-on-one with members in your community, you're going to get just more personalized advice. You're going to get more, people are going to know you, obviously. You're going to get referrals for your business, which is always a win-win, right? And you're going to build up that network within your community. And if more people know about your business, the advice is going to be a little more tailored to what you need. And it's going to be a little more personalized, and it's going to be better advice, right? And the advice might be a little more comprehensive. And it might be better because there might be things that you might not have been thought of, because this person knows your business a little bit better because they've been working with you, and they can refer other people in the community to you that can help solve your issues, if you know what I mean. Belonging to a community-based group is a great way. It's kind of a win-win for your business. And there's a networking element involved in it. So I would seek out a community-based group. And there are some that are online as well. It doesn't have to be an in-person group, although I do recommend an in-person group. Online groups are fabulous, don't get me wrong, but I'm a little old-fashioned. I think in-person networking you really can't take the place of in-person networking. I'm sorry. There's an element to in-person networking that you really just can't get with online networking. Sorry. And then I belong to another women's networking group, and there's a charity function attached to that. So there's another whole element to that group. So you get a lot more out of these groups, and there's an element of support that you get with those groups as well. That's a way to get really solid support for your business, advice. There's a lot of elements involved with that. So if you're seeking advice and support for your business, that's a great way to get it, especially if you're a new business owner, because you don't have to go through that alone. And if you do work with a group, and I know that's something that may not be in everybody's budget. If you do go through like a Chamber of Commerce, they may have like a junior membership you can explore, but I would encourage you to fit that into your budget, because you don't have to go at it alone, and you will need that support system, especially like I said at the beginning of the podcast. If you don't come from a family that had a family of business owners, it's all new. It's a little scary. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is there's a lot of clickbait out there, especially for new business owners. You are going to be very tempted to hire a business coach, which can be super expensive, to sign up for these classes and master classes and these trainings for new business owners, and to these classes and all these trainings out there. And I would encourage you really to not start simple. You don't need all of these things to start out with, especially if you're brand new. I always tell my clients, start very simple if you're brand new to business, and stay small, stay within your budget. Seek out just a few key advisors. You don't need a very expensive coach, because the quickest way to put yourself out of business is to go over budget and hire a really expensive business coach. If you just hire somebody who's going to work within your budget and advise you within your budget, within your means, then that's really kind of the way to go. You want to take advice within your budget. And if you can find free advice, even better. But keep it simple. And if you can't afford the advice and you can't find some free advice, then you need to save and launch your business when you can afford it. That's my best advice for you. And really kind of just to wrap things up here and to kind of wrap it up with a neat little bow. To get the most solid advice possible for your business, and the best way to kind of clear out the noise is to already have in place a solid foundation of the best possible advisors already on board. If you already have a solid team of advisors, then you don't need to be Googling anything. You don't need to be asking any of these Facebook groups anything. You are just a phone call or an email away from the best advice possible. So if you already have a CPA on board, you already have legal team on board, you already have a really great insurance agent on board, you already have a financial planner that you're working with. If you already have these people that you're working with, you've already curated, you already have these people that you've already kind of vetted and you're working with, then you don't need anything else. it's great to kind of scroll and to just, look through all of these, belong to these groups. But if you've already got these people on board, and believe me, it takes a while to get all these people on board. It doesn't happen overnight. And you will start off, like I said, figuring your way through it and, joining these groups and working your way and acquiring all of these people along the way. But that's really the best way to do it. I offer these services to clients, and other CPAs offer these services to clients. If you have these people already on board, then that noise is no longer there. It quiets all of that noise out there. You don't worry about being up on the tax laws. You don't worry about being up on, worrying about all your accounting, your bookkeeping. You don't worry about all the legalese about everything, because you already have all these people on board. You don't worry about your financial planning because you already have somebody managing all of that for you. You already have people on board doing that. The best way to find out where to get the solid business to fight and how to stay away from the noise out there is to have people on board who do that. But if you don't have those people on board yet, then the goal for you is to start looking for those people. Start looking for those people for your business. And it is a little bit of a task, but you have to build your team one by one. Find a CPA, find a great bookkeeper, find a great lawyer, find a great financial planner, insurance agent, find a great banker that you love, and start building this team. Start building this team one by one. And then once you feel like you have this team, you will see that running your business it will be so much smoother in the end. It'll be so much smoother in the end. And then you won't be bothered by all that noise that's out there. And you will see how easy it is to get that solid business advice, because like I said, it's just a phone call or an email away. So I hope this episode of Behind the Business was helpful. If you are a business owner, like and subscribe and share. If you know other business owners out there who are in need of advice or would like to listen to Behind the Business, make sure you share this, and see you back here for our next episode of Behind the Business.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Business. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with another business owner who could use some real-world advice. For free resources, tools, and to submit your own business questions, head on over to my website, PamelaHiltonCPA.com. Until next time, keep building smart and keep looking behind the business.